My name is Debra Edgerton. I am currently an assistant professor in the School of Art at Northern Arizona University, and I've pretty much been doing art all my life. I think the first time I remember art was with my mom. She was Japanese, and she used to do these little ink drawings for my sister and I, so I remember seeing like little sumi birds that she would do, and then my sister was really interested in going into art. So she did, and she's 4 years older than me. So I was able to see the work that she did, and then I was really interested in trying to mimic that. So I think I started working in art maybe in kindergarten. Water, the idea of water has always been large. I was looking at microorganisms and algae under the microscope because my husband is an environmental engineer and has his own lab and studies algae. So algae was the topic that I thought would be most interesting. And I saw one diatom, and it reminded me of the overview drawings of slave ships. That was the first time that I actually had the aha moment that I could take cultural identity and connect it to the idea of freshwater ecosystems and be able to discuss both at the same time. And that's where this body of work started. All of my imagery has to do with green algae and diatoms. I use that as a metaphor to see, how that relationship went and whether that paralleled what was happening, before and after the Emancipation Proclamation. I'm half Japanese American and half African American. And so I spent years just looking at, those different identities and coexisting in my household. What were those things that were similar and what were those things that were different? And since a large portion of my early body of work was about cultural identity, then I was always looking at those things that bring us together and those things that are separating us. And by understanding those definitions of how organisms coexist, then I started thinking in terms of the parallels of how do humans coexist. When you've got, different ethnicities coexisting in a specific place, what is it that brings them together and what is it that separates them? I think my hope for this exhibition is that people can bring themselves into the body of work. Anybody can bring their own culture, their own history, and look at these definitions and see what they can place themselves in terms of the timeline. So even though I'm very specific, I hope that they can see that generality of any of us can fit ourselves into this process. Because if they're just looking at those definitions, a person can take any point in their own history and see what kind of relationships they're having with other people.